2 weeks ago, I preached. I wonder, where did I preach from? Certainly from the Bible. Oh, I preached from Job. Okay, and I was thinking about the wonder of the natural world and our faith in Jesus. And I was recognizing that for some of us, for lots of us, we have this very innate, deep, close connection with the natural world around us. And we have a very deep faith in Jesus too. But we're not always sure quite how the two relate to each other, how they fit together. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit of time over this summer season. It is the summer, you might not have heard, but it is. Over this summer season to think some more about that. How does our faith in Jesus relate to the love we have of the world around us? So I really hope we might catch some of Nick's passion. There's four things I hope we're going to do. Catch some of Nick's passion for trees and his appreciation of God's creation. I hope that we're going to be open to imagining God in new ways through the things that Nick might say this morning, the things that you might think as Nick and I are chatting. I hope we're going to consider how God is calling this church and us individually to be more like trees. That'll make more sense as we go on, okay? How God is calling this church and us as individuals to be more like trees. And then just be open to anything else the Spirit might be doing in you. Does that sound all right? So that's our prayer, that God would speak to us even through a tree surgeon. A tree surgeon is not the right word, is it?
No.
What's the title?
Arboriculturalist.
A what?
Arboriculturalist.
Nick is our arboriculturalist. Tell us a bit more about who you are and about your work.
Okay, I'm Nick. I come to this church and I'm on the leadership team. I've got a family and I've only ever worked with trees. So when I first started, I was planting trees, doing forest management, and all the way through all the different stages up to harvesting trees. And then the government got rid of a load of grants, which were really good for the environment, and we had to diversify. And then we went into arboriculture, and I was doing arboriculture for Bristol City Trees, for doing by the railway, by the power lines on the highways. So all quite dangerous stuff, but good fun stuff. And now I came off tools in 2007, went into management, which, well, wasn't the best of fun to begin with because I didn't even know how to turn the computer on when I first started. And now I'm in health and safety for a tree surgery firm.
So just so we all just notice what we've done this morning, okay? Just if any of you are this way wired, Nick is a tree hugger and a health and safety person. You wouldn't describe yourself as a tree hugger, but tell us some more about what you love about trees, why you love trees. You told the children some, but I know if I ask you what you love about trees, you would just keep going all day long. So give us a few more.
I have a list because it's hard to know where to start because I found so many different things fascinating about trees. My wife, Nikki, told me not to be too much of a nerd, but I think you wanted me to be a nerd. So,
yeah.
So I apologise, this is full-on nerd.
We're all giving Nick permission to be nerdy, aren't we? As long as we still get our lunch on time.
Okay. Trees self-optimise in several ways.
Yeah, go on.
So you've obviously got phototropism, which is the tree growing towards the light. You've got geotropism, which I said to the kids, and that's the tree stabilising itself within the soil.
What's the one where it goes to the water?
Hydrotropism.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I find it amazing how a tree, if it's got a loading, which is like wind, can put on fibre to keep itself straight, to stop itself falling over.
Yes.
That
really tall tree you're at the top of that you mentioned to the children.
Yeah.
What's it like at the top of a tree? Is it completely steady? Steady?
No, it's when you're up a tall tree, it's like being on a ship. Very similar motion.
Right.
And if you're dismantling a tree because of safety reasons, you can feel the tree change in dynamics.
Yeah.
So trees, does anybody know what I mean by mass damping? Has anybody heard that as an engineering term?
Oh yes, Nick Harmer, well done. Nick Harmer knows what mass damping is.
If I do a impression of a tree...
Oh, go on. If the wind... Stand up, do it properly.
If the tree blows this arm up, the other one will go down. And it's all in perfect harmony to keep itself...
It balances.
To keep itself optimised and to take the load through the tree.
Yeah.
So perfectly designed to not blow over. I know we see trees blow over,
Yeah.
but that's generally human intervention and change of environment. They allow also, they're aerodynamic in one sense, as they allow wind to blow through the tree. If a tree is damaged in any way, like by another tree, or a car goes into it, it can't heal the fibre that's been damaged, but it can, through something called medulla res, can put carbohydrate to create more fibre around the wound, which I think is amazingly clever. I won't go over that bit. Benefits of trees. Well, I think they're beautiful. I don't think anybody would disagree with me, hopefully. You can use them in construction. This building has timber in it. You can eat parts of trees, apples, fruit. Yeah. You can burn trees to keep you warm in the winter. We also touched on that trees can create shade in the cities.
Yeah.
And can reduce the ambient temperature in a city by 10 degrees or more, which I think is fascinating. They absorb carbon. That's one of the biggest things. Yeah. So obviously man creates a lot of carbon. We're not very good at not creating carbon.
I do it every time I breathe out.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing, and they absorb it and they create oxygen. And the other good thing, which especially when I've been working on the highways, is we do a lot more for the environment. So we create a lot of habitat, and you've only got to see like all the different birds and bats and trees. Well, where we'd be without trees, they'd have no habitat, nowhere to live.
There's so many things you love about trees, and for us all to love about trees, isn't there? Do you want to say a little bit more about how this impacts on your faith in God?
Yeah, so I got one more thing, which I find fascinating.
Go. So you move a bit closer to that mic.
When Chernobyl, the nuclear power station, exploded, it put a lot of cancerous cells in trees, and what they found from research is the trees created a chemical wall around the cancerous cells. So after man sort of left the area, trees thrived in Chernobyl. If you go there now, it's like full of birch trees and alder and all sorts. So I found that fascinating. Even though man can really muck things up, trees can have a way of helping and fixing themselves, and absorbing the pollution as well.
Wonderful. I was asking you, tell us a bit more about how your love of trees impacts your faith in God, your relationship with Jesus.
I don't think I'll be sitting here in one sense without trees. So I've always had a deep fascination with nature and trees in particular, and about their perfect design. And I used to go by the theory that you're taught in school, that everything happens by chance, and the Big Bang theory and what have you. And I thought, well, no, trees are too. The more older I get and the more I lived with trees, the more I realise they're perfectly designed and that they can't happen by chance. They're just so perfectly designed. It's got to be a creator.
Great. Too nerdy for anybody yet, or just Nikki? No, she didn't put her hand up. Good. Did you know, what's the living thing that's most mentioned in the Bible? Think about this before you answer. What's the living thing that's most mentioned in the Bible? People. What's the living thing in the Bible that's second most mentioned? I told you this. Anybody want to guess? Trees. Trees. So of all the living things, trees are mentioned again and again in the Bible. Give us some examples. I want you to contribute now. Who can remember where there's trees in the Bible? Shout out. Stick your hand up if you want to. Gosh, that was several things at once. I heard Phil say Palm Sunday, which is, I'd never thought of that one. That's very interesting. Who said something over here? Cedars of Lebanon, thank you. Yeah, brilliant, yeah. And so they symbolise strength, don't they? Great. Who else? Yeah, Dave. Zacchaeus climbed up a sycamore tree. Didn't think of that one either. Keep going. Sorry. Over here. The Garden of Eden. What is in the Garden of Eden? The trees. Who said trees? Thank you very much. Two particular trees. The tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. These are really important symbols, aren't they? Yeah? Who else? Who said something over here? Well done for remembering the bit of Bible we've already heard. Psalm 1, the righteous person who's like a tree planted by the streams of water and doesn't fail, prospers. Teresa? A palm tree, yeah, good. Yeah, the palm branches, wonderful. Anybody else? A fig tree, yeah. What happens with the fig tree? Yeah, Jesus curses the fig tree. The fig tree becomes a symbol for Israel, okay? So lots of places in the Bible, the fruitfulness of a tree is a symbol of how the people of God should be fruitful, yeah? So do you remember John the Baptist, when he starts off his preaching, he talks about the axe laid at the root of the tree because the trees aren't showing the fruit of repentance. He's saying the people aren't showing the new kind of life that God expects from them. Anybody else? The olive tree. What do you want to say about the olive tree? Yes. Yes, the Garden of Gethsemane is an olive tree plantation, yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Yes. Thank you. Jane. The cross. Isn't that interesting? So did you know this? So particularly in the book of Acts, it actually doesn't say it in our NIV Bible. They've translated the word cross most often, but the word there is tree. So in lots of the sermons where people say, Peter, for instance, says, you took the Lord of glory and you put him upon, not the cross, upon a tree. That's the word it uses, which is really interesting, isn't it? Actually, it's not just tree. The Greek word for tree is dendron. That's where we get rhododendron from. There you go, very interesting. But actually, it's not the word for tree. I didn't tell you this, I only spotted this morning. It's actually the word for timber. So they put Jesus on timber, the word that you use for tree once it's been manufactured in a particular way for our use. So you've got the cross at the tree at the beginning of the Bible, the Garden of Eden. You've got the cross in the middle of the Bible. At the end of the Bible, there's trees as well. Who wants to say that? In Revelation, yeah, good. Very good. So there's the tree. There's trees that has, like you said, the leaves for the healing of the nation. Is it beside a river as well, or is that just in Ezekiel? I can't remember. Okay, it's beside the river of life, and alongside the river of life, these trees, which their leaves bring healing for the nation, and that comes from Ezekiel 47. It's in Ezekiel too. Anything else? We heard another one this morning. Go on. Very good. That's right. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream, which turns out to be a dream about himself, which is about a tree being chopped down. Yeah. So it's the same idea, isn't it? The fruitful tree is a symbol of the right kind of life, but the tree that's chopped down is showing a life that's become fruitless. It sprouted again from its roots, yeah. Anybody else? The mustard seed. Well done for also quoting the bit of Bible you've heard this morning. It's great when things join together, isn't it? So Jesus talks about the kingdom being like a mustard seed, yeah? And the mustard seed becomes this great big tree, the great big branches where the birds of the air come and take up shelter upon it. It starts as something very, very small, but it grows in an amazing way and has a big influence, and all the different things of creation come and find shelter upon it. Anybody else want to say anything else about trees? The ark. That's interesting, yeah. So humanity is saved in something constructed from timber that God has given the instructions for. Yeah. Have we got trees in this building? Oh, you said there's trees in the construction of the church. There is. Is there anything else tree-like here? Yeah, so actually the pillars and arches of churches, okay, so that's how you hold a roof up. But they are intentionally tree-like, okay? And then we've also got a vine all the way around our balcony there as well. Isn't that interesting? Trees are the second most mentioned living thing in the Bible. I just find that fascinating. So when you go out and notice trees, think there's some reason why God refers to them lots or thinks that they matter to us. I wonder, what do you think trees could teach us, Nick?
How they effectively accept sickness and disease. They
Yeah.
find a way to carry on.
Yeah.
They self-optimize around the situation that they're in, whether that be the mental raise, putting carbohydrate around a disease or a fungus. But they're stoic. They find a way to carry on.
They find a way to carry on.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that trees are giving, are self-giving. Can you say some more about that?
Yeah, so probably everybody here has heard of ash dieback. And something that I find particularly fascinating is when the tree has the Fraxinus Schollara disease, it puts on like 20 times the amount of seed so that the tree can carry on giving and so it can carry on effectively.
So in its death, it actually becomes more fruitful.
Way more fruitful, yeah, to 20, 30 times, so that the species can carry on.
Does that sound like anything Jesus said? Unless a seed falls to the ground. Yeah? We're talking about himself. Go on, keep going.
The other thing I like is just 50 trees can absorb the carbon for one car or one person. I find that fascinating. And I've been a little bit holier than thou, as I've planted thousands of trees. But in reality, somebody else is probably taking that carbon offset, even though I did it. But yeah, they're really good. If we want to carry on and not heat this world, we need more trees effectively to soak up the carbon that we're creating.
You've planted masses and masses of trees. Have you taken any down?
I've taken...
Just to bear that in mind as well.
I have. But they're generally crop trees, which is like in coniferous woodland. They're grown as a crop.
Yes.
Just so it's a longer term than farming.
Yes.
And obviously trees that are dangerous near highways or railways or power lines.
And you also said something about the trees. They don't just absorb carbon; they can take in other pollutants as well.
Yeah, in the city in particular, you get like London plane trees. They absorb all the particulates from diesel and petrol cars. And I know that because I've climbed them and been covered in black.
Right, okay.
And that's all the it's quite incredible how they absorb it.
So. Is Jesus tree-like? That's my question for you. Does Jesus take the toxins in our world from us and change them into something else? Does Jesus take our sin, our violence, our guilt and our pain, our delusion, and does he give us back life and grace and forgiveness and new power and the fruits of the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit? All of it a bit like the tree gives us fresh oxygen to breathe. And isn't Jesus like the mustard seed, small and insignificant, but when the seed falls to the ground, it grows and becomes this most incredible thing. Unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. And Jesus too, placed in the ground, placed in the tomb, seemingly small and insignificant, but Jesus is this seed who's so fruitful, bringing life and growth and change and salvation, and then all of the birds of the air take rest in its shade. Jesus opens up his life in his heart so that we can dwell in him, so that we can rest in his name, so we can be in Christ. So we're gathered into his life, like those birds of the air gathered from all around. We're covered and protected by the shade of his righteousness. And then the psalm talks about the righteous person planted by the streams of water. Of course, who is the only purely righteous person? Jesus. Again, so many of the Psalms talk about Jesus, don't they? And again, he's so fruitful so that others around him can have life. And then actually the mustard seed parable that we heard, Jesus started off by saying the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed. So that's us, the church, isn't it? How are we like a mustard seed? Well, we've started small, but we keep growing. We keep providing shelter to those who need shelter. We provide home to those who need home. We seek healing for the people around us and for society around us. We take in the toxic things of the world around us, and then we turn them into life. Is that good? I wonder how... So there's trees all through the Bible, okay? Nick's passion has a home. Jesus is tree-like in different ways compared to a tree. The kingdom and the church is like a tree. And then individually, we're supposed to be tree-like as well. We're supposed to be fruitful. So my question as we tie all this together is, how might God be inviting you to be tree-like this week? Okay? How might God be inviting you to be tree-like this week? How could you draw life from the river of God? You know, the tree planted by the streams of water. Or how could you find new strength and build new strength around the harm and the loss that you've suffered? Or how could you provide shelter and shade to others this week? Who needs rest and security? Who needs home in you this week? Or where is there toxic stuff in your workplace or in your community that you could replace with fresh air and life? We didn't talk about trees and flooding, trees holding back water, but I wonder, can you hold back a flood of bitterness or anxiety somehow this week? Or how are you going to be fruitful for God and his kingdom? Jesus is the ultimate righteous one, like the psalm, like a tree by the water, yielding fruit, not withering, always prospering. And he forms around himself a congregation of the righteous. So in his strength, I pray, let us this week grow up strong around him, drawing life from him, giving life and healing and shelter away to the world around us. Is that good? Do you want to say anything else?
No, I think I'm treed out now.
Nick's treed out. Should we make him do this again one day? No, Nick says no. You can give him a little encouraging clap if you like.